Hello. Congratulations on completing Chapter 7. Today we get to start in on Chapter 8. And for Chapter 8, we will be talking about exponents. And in Chapter 8 here for the Section 1, we will look at some principles that we had worked on before, you had learned before. We're going to take those principles and we're going to expand them. And I think you will enjoy this section a little bit more. There won't be quite as many word problems. So we'll be talking about some exponents here. And let's take a look at this. Okay, if we have x cubed times x squared, how do we simplify that? You would add the exponents, 3 plus 2, and then we end up with x to the 5th power. Same thing here. Now, if our base, negative x, is the same, then all we have to do is just add the power, and then you get negative x to the 5th power. Well, now, what if we have y squared and we're going to raise that to another power? Then you are going to multiply, okay, 2 times 5, and you get y to the 10th power. Here, if we have 2y times 3y, you're going to multiply the 2 times 3, and that gives us 6, right? And then y times y, and that gives us y squared. So we have 6y squared. And then here, if we have x to the a power and x to the b power, we're going to add our powers, right? So it's going to be x, and then it's to the a plus b power. Now, let's take a look at some properties of these exponents, okay? So, the product property means that if I'm multiplying a number that's the same base, then I just take the exponents and I add them together, a plus b. To multiply powers with like bases, add the exponents. The power property means that if I have a number raised to another power, then I'm just going to multiply those powers together. To raise a power to a power, multiply the exponents. Let's take a look at some examples here now. Okay, we're going to add the exponents. If you have x to the 5th times x squared, we're going to just add 5 plus 2, and then that becomes x to the 7th power. You multiply the exponents. If you multiply the exponents, then we have x to the 5th power squared. Then you multiply 5 times 2, and that gives us x to the 10th power. Remember, the order of operations, okay? Raising to powers comes before multiplication. So, before we had talked about the order of operations, you simplify parentheses first. Then you multiply and divide. Then you add and subtract. But now, for exponents, you're going to raise powers. Raising powers comes before multiplication. So you have to simplify the powers first and then multiply. So here, we need to simplify the powers here. Y cubed squared. I'm going to do that first. So that gives me y to the 4th times y to the 6th. And if I'm multiplying the two numbers, I add the powers, and it's going to be 4 plus 6, and that gives me 10. Y to the 10th power. Now, you can apply the commutative and associative properties of multiplication. Commutative means order, remember? Associative means the association or grouping of your numbers. So, 3x squared times 5x. I'm going to pull out the 3 times 5, and then I'm going to have x is my base. And then so that can be by itself. group by itself, and then you have the power of 2 plus the power of 1. Now I can simplify from here, and then I'm going to have 15x cubed. So that's all it is here. 3 times 5, 15, and then the x squared times x to the first power is 2 plus 1 equals 3, x to the third power. Remember that x equals x to the first power. Don't forget that. And then let's take a look at this. And how are we going to simplify this? So you're going to take a look at the bases and look for the similar bases. So -8, that will stay the same. Let's combine my x's. X squared times x. And then y times y right here. Then z cubed times z squared. That's going to be over here. Now I can combine or simplify each of these in the parentheses. And then I'm going to have -8, okay, for x is going to be 2 plus 1. For the y, it's going to be 1 plus 1. And then for the z, it's going to be 3 plus 2. And then when I simplify that, it's going to give me -8 times x to the third power times y squared times z to the fifth power. Excuse me. Our next example here, now I have -ab squared cubed. How do I simplify this? Well, this is the same as saying -ab squared times itself 3 times, right? That's what the cube means. Okay? So I have -1 times -1 times -1. All right? And then I have a times a times a right here. Then I have b squared times b squared times b squared. Well, that's going to be the same as the a's, 1 plus 1 plus 1, and then the b's, 2 plus 2 plus 2. And when I simplify that, that's going to give me -a cubed times b to the 6th power. And there's my final answer. Properties of the exponents. The commutative and associative properties can be used to show that the power of a product is equal to the product of its powers. All right, you're probably wondering, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at the next example here. So, the power of a product, okay, A times B times C, is equal to the product of the powers. All right, let's take a look here. I have -2m to the 4th n. This whole thing is cubed. 1/6 mn squared. This whole thing is squared. Now, first, let's take a look at this one. Okay, each term is going to be cubed, right? So the -2 cubed, m to the 4th cubed, n cubed. And then I'm going to multiply that with 1/6 squared, okay, and then m squared, and then n squared squared. So remember, when you have the term inside the parentheses, each of those components has to be raised to this power. Each of these components has to be raised to this power. That's what the previous statement meant by the product of the powers, okay? So now I can simplify this. -2 cubed is going to give me -8. Okay, m to the 4th raised to the 3rd power. Remember, multiply now. Then that's going to give me m to the 12th power. Here, n cubed, just simplify that. 1/6 squared is going to give me 1/36. Okay, and then I have m squared, and then this is n to the 4th power. But now I'm going to multiply even more because I have to simplify these products. So now I have -8 times 1/36. My m's, you have 12 and 2, so that's 12 plus 2. And then my n's are 3 and 4, so it's going to be 3 plus 4. So when I simplify this, I get -2/9, because this simplifies m to the 14th power, n to the 7th power. All right, our next example here. X squared times x times y squared plus 3x squared x squared, or xy, x squared, minus 5x cubed y squared. Well, what do I get? First, simplify each term. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to simplify this. X squared times x is going to give me x cubed, right? And then y squared. Here I have x, or 3 times x squared. That's going to give me x cubed again, times y. Now minus 5, x cubed, y squared. Well, what happens? X cubed y squared is the same term, isn't it? Or here it is, okay? So then I can combine my like terms, which there you have it. And this is the same as saying 1, right? So 1 minus 5, that's how we get negative 4. X cubed y squared, and then the 3x cubed y stays the same by itself. There's your final answer. So for our homework tonight, not too difficult, a nice break from our word problems, okay? And so there you have it. And enjoy doing this lesson and then the break that you have after this. Thank you.